Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers, and I'm looking at a new edition of a book that many will know. It's Judicial Review. It's published, as I say, by LexisNexis Butterworths, and it was known originally as Supperstone, Gowdy and Walker on Judicial Review. It's now edited by Professor Helen Fenwick in the 4th edition. It's a heavy book, 800 odd pages. There's a useful index right at the back, which I'm sure many of you will find very helpful. There's one word of warning, and that is that when you're looking for the footnotes, you have the standard paragraph numbering at the side. The footnotes are immediately after the relevant paragraph, so don't get too confused if you're actually trying to cross-refer or look at something. The book is actually part of a series, a collection of contributions. You can see the introduction is by Professor Fenwick. Then it goes on to a variety of very useful pointers in all the various directions. The one I found particularly helpful is Chapter 9 on proportionality, which is a big area. There's a very useful list of who the contributors are, a very large number of them, and an excellent introduction. The book itself, I think, is very, very helpful at a time when Judicial Review is going through some interesting possible changes. We've written a fairly controversial review which is on the web and in some of the journals, and we've given it the title Judicial Review, a Growth Industry? Here's a wealth of advice, comment and new developments in its complex and controversial area of law. And that's really what we have here, looking at a state of affairs which perhaps needs some review, which we'll come on to. What we said is this: we were rather taken by Gavin Drewry's remark as part of his contributory chapter included in the book, which says judicial review of administrative action has apparently been something of a growth industry. How right after 40 years, when, for instance, Stanley de Smith described it as inevitably sporadic and peripheral by its nature at that time. I'm talking now about the 60s and 70s. There can be little doubt, of course, that Drewry's view is true today, and a good thing too, possibly, as judicial review in all its complexities has provided and continues to provide a legal remedy aimed at righting administrative wrongs. Growth, of course, indicates change, and yes, the area of judicial review continues to evolve, generating new developments of which the alert practitioner needs to be aware in order to construct an effective response. Interesting and rather astonishing length of tables, running to nearly 100 pages, bears this out. As we all know, of course, judicial review has got a very substantial case law behind it. Drewry is one of a very long roster of expert and illustrious contributors to this new 4th edition. And it's a contributor-led book, of course, and it offers practitioners access to what we feel is a variety of informed views and opinions, which is also very useful, of course, in this controversial area. And I think it's actually quite helpful if you're an advocate searching for a solution, because sometimes it really can be quite baffling when you're faced with the problem which the client might have. Now, Fenwick explains the book is concerned with the impact of new developments once they have been more fully taken, have more fully taken effect, rather than with their innovation. And it deals, for example, with a range of important developments under the Human Rights Act, proportionality, in my view, being one of the more important aspects, and of course its international link. The book does examine and clarify a wide range of other areas, from the nature of judicial review and its historic background to procedural rules, natural justice and so forth. And there's a lot of recent development which is given with the editor's overall modern aim to suit us as the users. Research resources abound, as I've indicated, and I think the table of cases is extremely useful. There's a good index at the back too. So if you're a practitioner or in any way connected professionally or even generally with judicial review, it's vital in our view to add this to your judicial review library. We would add, of course, however, that the current controversial problems of mounting judicial review remain, even though they've been admirably well explained in the 4 successive editions of this book, dating from the time when Mr. Justice Supperstone was the first editor. Of course, the book does provide a modern and useful statement, but because of the sheer expense, popularity and complexity of judicial review today, we expect that there should be really another review of its mechanisms, with hopefully a view being given to a comprehensive overhaul to suit current access to justice policies, as the last modern changes took place about 30 years ago, and much has changed from the time when I first studied this subject under de Smith, when he gave his earlier historic description about the issues being sporadic and peripheral. They're not anymore, and I think we still haven't really addressed that issue. But that's for the legislators. Thank you very much for listening anyway. Bye-bye.